Let's start today with something a little bit uncomfortable. I'll go first, okay? I'm a hypocrite. It's true. Statistically, if you listen to this podcast, if you watch my clips on YouTube, you are a hypocrite as well. And what I'm talking about is the gap between what we say we believe and what we actually do. And I don't mean in a vague sort of like society is hypocritical kind of way. I mean, you, me, probably everybody watching, we are hypocrites in that we have contradictions in our politics. And if we pretend that we don't, we're lying to ourselves. Ezra Klein recently made a very interesting point in an interview that he did about the differences between what he calls symbolic politics and operational politics. And once you see it, it's really hard to unsee. It's the difference between saying everyone's welcome here and actually making room for everyone. And Ezra Klein gives a really good example. You know those lawn signs that say, in this house, we believe science is real, but everyone is welcome here, is sort of the point. And when you see such a sign posted in a neighborhood that is strictly zoned for single family homes with sky high prices, where very few people can actually afford to live there, you realize that there is an inconsistency here. There is a hypocrisy. And on the surface, you have a sign that's a symbol of inclusivity, and then reality sets in. Not everybody really is welcome systemically unless you rethink zoning laws and invest in infrastructure, grow the housing supply, which is hard to do when you're zoned single family, and make some difficult compromises to actually welcome everybody in. I'll give you a couple of examples from my own life. I've always supported inclusive housing policy, more affordable housing, less restrictive zoning, mixed use, all of it. When I previously lived in a place where for a while I had this great empty double lot of trees and it got turned into affordable condos, I was incredibly annoyed. Now, I didn't act to stop it, but as the construction dragged on for 18 months, at one point they needed to run an electrical wire through my backyard every morning at 7 a.m. They started hammering. I felt angry because I would much rather have, in an immediate sense, the double lot of nice, quiet trees. The trees didn't make any noise at 7 a.m. The birds did, but the trees didn't. I would rather have that. Now, rationally, I knew that this project was exactly the kind of project I believe in. Emotionally, I was just some guy frustrated that my backyard was getting messed up and my sleep was getting messed up. So that's a contradiction. Or I'll give you another one. Climate change. I fully believe we need to take action. And I also fly frequently. Sometimes I fly for work when I could probably get away with a Zoom meeting because I think it's better to meet in person for certain things. Sometimes I fly for vacation. I don't love the contradiction, but it's there. And the truth is that these contradictions really are everywhere. People who say, I want strong public schools. And then there's a proposal to say, let's make them strong by increasing your property taxes. And you go, oh no, I don't want my property taxes going up. Or people who say they support unions, but then they get annoyed when a strike makes their life inconvenient and they say they shouldn't be allowed to do that, or at least not here. And this is a big one, people who scream about democracy and then they get mad when an election doesn't go their way. The point here is this is how real politics works. We all live with contradictions. It's okay. But the key is don't let symbolism replace policy. So I might get annoyed about the construction, but I didn't do anything about it. And I still support housing reform. Maybe I fly too much, but I want a Green New Deal. And if that makes flying more expensive, I'll have to deal with it and figure out, is it still worth flying? By the way, I don't really care if politicians have money as long as they're voting for the right tax policy. And so, for example, J.B. Pritzker is a billionaire, so is Trump. I'd rather J.B. Pritzker, even though he's a billionaire, over Trump because I think J.B. Pritzker's tax policy makes more sense. But I'll give you an even better example, or maybe more complicated one. Bernie Sanders. Every election cycle, the right goes after him. He's a millionaire. Who's this guy pretending to be a man of the people? He's not a billionaire. He's a millionaire with 3 houses. And my response has always been, who cares? If Bernie is fighting for working class people and he's promoting and voting for policies that help people afford housing and healthcare. That's really what matters. And as I've mentioned before, Bernie's in his 80s. He's been making six figures for what, 30, 40 years? If you make six figures for 30, 40 years, and by the time you're 80, you're not a millionaire on paper, you're really bad with money. I probably don't want you making any decisions for the country. The point is, I need politicians to vote the right way, to push the right policies. The symbolic purity isn't super useful if it doesn't translate into action because I care about results. And the real sort of challenge here is making sure that when push comes to shove, our actions, especially the ones that can affect our communities, match up with what we claim to believe. So it's not really about the everyone is welcome here lawn sign, but as Ezra Klein astutely pointed out, it definitely is something that can get us thinking about what policies do we and don't we support explicitly by what we vote for, but also implicitly by our consumer choices, where we choose to live, and how we relate to our communities. Food for thought. Let me know what you think. I have a book coming out. I've spent a long time working on this. I couldn't be more excited to share it with you. It is called The Echo Machine, and it answers a crucial question. How did American politics get so broken? And just as importantly, how do we fight back effectively before it's too late? Trump back in the White House, damage piling up, an administration filled with extremists and loyalists, attacks on democratic institutions, policies hurting working people. If you've felt like you're screaming into the void and watching democracy slip away, my book, The Echo Machine, will help you make sense of what's happening and also give you an idea of what we can do about it. Go to davidpakman.com/echo or find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, I'd like David Pakman's The Echo Machine from Beacon Press. Pre-orders make a huge difference. Please support the book at davidpakman.com/echo.